All right, let's jump right into it, because if you told me last month that 3 police officers would surround my house on a Saturday morning, guns close at hand, while my neighbors live stream the whole circus, I'd have laughed you right out of my garden. But here I am, supposedly the intruder in my own driveway, all because I put up a no trespassing sign to keep midnight visitors out of my herb beds. And you want to know who orchestrated this mess? Our HOA president, Betty Whitfield. Picture this. She's standing at the curb, arms folded, her eyes laser focused on the sign I hammered into the dirt, telling the cops I'm illegally occupying community land. You can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, it was only yesterday everything felt normal. I'm Sam Thompson, by the way, in case the neighborhood hasn't already told you about me. 8 months living at 42 Maple Street, paying my HOA dues, mowing the lawn to within an inch of its life so no one has an excuse to complain. But Betty, she's different. She's the kind of person who treats a clipboard like a weapon. That morning she whipped it out like it held the secrets of the universe and started rattling off accusations, trespassing, illegal signage, aggressive occupation of stolen land. Stolen. The word still echoes in my head, bouncing around with the disbelief and the absurdity of it all. It would have been funny if it wasn't so serious. Neighbors crowded around, faces pressed to glass or peeking through their blinds, phones aimed like reporters at a car crash. The Johnson's coffee cups, frozen mid-sip, just stared. Even the mailman bailed on his route, lingering at the curb as if he was waiting for an invitation to the show. "Ma'am, you're saying this gentleman doesn't live here?" Officer Williams asked, notepad ready. And Betty, with her glasses perched just so, gave a smile that could chill beer. "According to our emergency injunction filed with the county this morning, Mr. Thompson has erected illegal signage on community property." And just like that, my home, my safe little world, became a crime scene. I tried to keep my cool, rattling off every document I could think of. Deed, mortgage, utility bills, the works. I even pointed at Jennifer's car, my truck, the welcome mat, the garden gnome. Anything to remind these strangers that I lived here. But Betty just raised an eyebrow and said, "That's exactly what a sophisticated squatter would say. You ever been so mad you wanted to laugh? That was me." She claimed to have documents, surveys, meeting minutes, sworn statements proving my house, my driveway, even my new sign all sat 3 feet onto common area. And the kicker, she'd called an emergency board meeting the night before and filed a restraining injunction while the rest of us slept. I'd never even heard about the meeting. 8 months of following every rule: mailbox color, lawn height, don't park in the wrong spot. And this was the thanks I got. By the time Detective Hayes rolled up with his serious face and salt and pepper hair, I was halfway to thinking I'd woken up in the Twilight Zone. He looked over the mountain of paperwork Betty handed him, studied my folder of receipts and utility bills, and asked the question that's been burning in my brain ever since. "Do you have proof this land belongs to you and not the HOA?" 12 hours earlier, I was just trying to drink coffee and plan a kitchen renovation with Jennifer. She's a forensic pathologist, by the way, sharpest eye for detail I've ever met. When we found muddy boot prints in the garden, she immediately saw it wasn't animal tracks. Size 10 or 11 boots. Deliberate. That's when I decided to put up the sign after double-checking the survey, measuring everything twice and taking a dozen photos just to be safe. I wasn't about to poke the HOA hornet's nest, but I wasn't going to let someone trample my basil either. What I didn't know was that Betty had been watching me from her kitchen plotting. That night she called the board into her living room, waved around a survey she'd commissioned herself from a firm already suspended for document fraud, as we'd later find out, and spun a story about my territorial aggression. The board, caught off guard, went along with her. She rushed the paperwork, called in favors from her old law buddies, and by dawn she had everything lined up to turn my Saturday into a living hell. The phone call to the police was her final move. She timed it for maximum effect, making sure the whole neighborhood would see me arrested for defending my own garden. Her voice on the 911 call was pure performance, threatening signage, illegal occupation, all the right buzzwords. And man, did it work. By lunchtime, my name was trending on the neighborhood app. Betty called a live-streamed emergency meeting at 2, labeling it, "Removing the Intruder." The comments rolled in faster than I could read them. I always thought he was a little off. People like that ruin it for everyone. Squatters are getting more creative. I'll be honest, I was reeling. My own mother called to ask if I'd really been arrested. The official restraining order hit my mailbox before dinner. No stepping foot on the disputed 3 feet of land, no using my driveway, no gardening. Jennifer read the legalese with a growing look of horror. "Mike, this isn't just about a sign they're coming after the house." And just to top it off, a $5,000 fine landed in my lap for illegal signage. That little piece of aluminum was now the most expensive thing in our front yard. Betty wasn't done. The community meeting was a masterclass in manipulation. She stood at a podium holding up surveys, pointing to diagrams, spinning a narrative about my systematic encroachment and pattern of aggression. She used every trick in the book, showed photos cropped to make my sign look massive and menacing, read statements about adverse possession, as if I'd spent months scheming to steal from my neighbors. The crowd bought it too. Lisa Collins asked what the board would do to protect property values. Harold Stevens, usually the reasonable one, looked genuinely rattled. The demand was impossible: remove my house from the community land or face criminal charges. Like I could just lift my house and move it 3 feet overnight. Betty knew that, but it gave her cover to escalate. Suddenly I was the criminal and she was the reluctant protector. The next morning a news van parked on the curb. The anchor asked for my comment as an architect accused of stealing from his neighbors. Jennifer stepped up calm, clear, laying out the facts, our deed, our permits, the original county survey. For the first time I saw the reporter's pause, doubt flickering behind the makeup and the bright lights. Still the pressure mounted. My job was on the line. Clients paused projects. The firm suggested I take a leave. Jennifer's office too, whispers, side glances, her boss pulling her off cases just until things settled down. We were isolated, bleeding money to lawyers who shook their heads and said fighting the HOA would cost more than most people's annual salary. And then Betty's settlement offer arrived: sell the house to the HOA for a fraction of its value, pay all the legal fees, and sign a document promising never to challenge them again. Oh, and publicly apologize. Yeah, that happened. But here's where things flipped. Jennifer, God bless her, switched from stressed-out spouse to full-on forensic pathologist. "Let's treat this like a crime scene," she said, gloves on, documents spread across the table. She spotted inconsistencies instantly. The ink on Betty's surveys, all from the same pen. The signatures identical, notary stamps, misaligned measurements that didn't add up. My architectural records backed her up: GPS-stamped photos, inspection reports, emails with the county, the works. The survey firm Betty used license suspended 6 months earlier for falsifying documents. The numbers on her paperwork literally didn't add up. Her disputed land was actually 6 inches inside our legal line. Sunday night, Jennifer found the smoking gun. Betty's entire folder had been assembled the night before the cops showed up. It was a coordinated fraud, not a bureaucratic mix-up. Monday morning, Betty made her fatal mistake. She called thinking I'd cave. Jennifer recorded the whole thing. "You have 24 hours to accept our offer or face federal charges." She threatened me, name-dropped. The DA tried to scare us into signing. What she didn't know, Jennifer's recording was already in the cloud, time-stamped and ready for court. That day, Jennifer dug even deeper, found court records showing Betty was $800,000 in debt to casinos, payments due in 90 days. Suddenly it all clicked. She was orchestrating forced property sales for cash, preying on families with valuable land and limited connections. She'd pulled this trick on at least 3 other families, always the same playbook: survey fraud, emergency meetings, intimidation, then lowball settlement. We set a trap. I played along, asked for a meeting, no lawyers, cash settlement only. Jennifer hid 4 cameras in a coffee shop, rigged up audio, coached me to let Betty gloat. Narcissists, she said, can't resist showing off. And she was right. Betty walked in, sat down, and within 20 minutes had bragged about manipulating surveys, bribing professionals, targeting other families, even looping her brother-in-law's development company into the scam. Emergency powers are surprisingly flexible, she smirked, not knowing every word was being recorded in high-def video. And just as she wrapped up her monologue about serving the greater good, the police pulled up outside Detective Hayes, leading the charge. Betty's face went from smug to stunned as he read her rights, the coffee shop dead silent except for the sound of handcuffs. Betty tried to protest, waving her manila folder, but the evidence was overwhelming. Jennifer handed over every file, every recording, every timeline, her forensic expertise shining brighter than ever. What happened next? State investigators raided the survey firm, shut down. Her brother-in-law's company traced a string of forced sales across multiple neighborhoods, over $2.8 million in stolen equity, a criminal network unraveling overnight. Our neighbors, the same folks who'd shunned us days earlier, lined up to apologize. The HOA dissolved, new bylaws, written transparency enforced. Our house was independently surveyed, no encroachment, no violation, just the same garden Jennifer and I had nursed back to life. Betty got 18 months in federal prison, 3 years supervised release. The restitution checks helped, but the real healing came later. Jennifer's reputation soared. She gave lectures on forensic evidence and civil cases, consulted for other victims. My architectural practice grew, clients drawn by the story of how we fought back with proof, not panic. You know, sometimes justice isn't loud. It's a kid's chalk drawing on your driveway, a neighbor's apology with a plate of pancakes, a mail carrier calling you by name again. It's the quiet of a home restored not by lawyers but by truth, by standing your ground when it mattered most. And here's the kicker: if you've ever tangled with an HOA, you know how wild it can get. But if you ever feel alone, remember sometimes all it takes is a sign, a little evidence, and the stubborn refusal to be bullied off your own land. Would you have fought back or taken the deal? Drop your thoughts below, because this debate is far from over. And if you want to see more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and let us know how justice looks in your neighborhood.